Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Ears to the East. Where okay, there's a lot of news to cover on the subject that we want to talk about today.
Oh, actual news. So we're actually doing our jobs.
Well, the funny thing is that this was all instigated by something that I did see from a Japanese band so Gambit, this band that we've been supporting, they're relatively new, they're doing fantastic things, doing really well. And they
Yeah.
put out a little bit of, it's not a cryptic post, but it's one of those posts that leaves enough to the imagination. But the funny thing is that it sparked a question that has been being had not just in Asia. In fact, primarily, this is a conversation I've been seeing had a lot more in America.
Right.
So this is a subject that's going to there's a lot of broad space to talk about. Now, basically, the post that Gambit put out, as their fame has been elevated, and they're still playing relatively small live houses, they put out a post that basically just said in a nice kind of text way, hey, we want everyone to have fun at our shows. Please remember that we don't allow photography at our shows, and please be, careful to show that they kept the wording very vague. It was in Japanese to show kindness towards other patrons. Don't upset. We don't want
Mm.
any rudeness at our shows. Um, Now, obviously, something has sparked this. I understand the photograph thing. That is kind of more of a uniquely Japanese thing. But especially when you've got like female artists and young female artists, and I think Gambit are quite young.
Yeah.
And so there's that element as well. But there was just this kind of vibe of, okay, we get the feeling, that maybe people are being a little bit rowdy with the show.
Rambunctious.
This kind of made me think, because obviously there's been some news that I've seen from America which made me really laugh. Like, first of all, there was like some country singer who stopped a show because people were taking selfies right in front of the stage, which really pissed her off. And there was a whole fury about this in America. And then, everyone was like, oh, she's being so over dramatic. And I was thinking, well, I don't know. I wouldn't like people doing selfies in front of a stage. And then they eventually saw the actual
Yeah.
clips, and these people were really taking the piss.
I
But
saw
then
the
there was a
whole
whole
Nicki Minaj thing where she threw a microphone at somebody in the crowd.
Well, I think that might have been like it was someone like her or Cardi B, but the thing I loved about that clip is when
Oh, it
she
might have been
throws the
Cardi B, yeah.
microphone, her
Yeah.
her voice keeps going. She throws the microphone and her voice keeps going, like fucking voice of a generation right there. Voice of a generation right there. You throw your microphone and like nothing changes. It's like you can go home. So I don't know what the fuck that concert was supposed to be, but yeah, I mean that was the other one. Like so her freaking out over something, and there's this general thing about rudeness at shows. Now, obviously, the bar is very different. So I know, like in Western venues, you do get like people generally getting quite rowdy, and there is that whole thing where the line between the crowd and the stage gets crossed a lot more.
Yeah.
So there is a bit more concern about that. But in Japan, I think there's a general feeling that they just you know, it's nowhere near that, but they've more drawn the line at we feel like some things might be being disrespectful. You're taking photographs when we don't want you to. You're maybe interfering with other people's enjoyment of the show, maybe by holding up a camera in front of their
Mm.
eyes. Or just generally being, maybe you're moshing at a show where you're not supposed to mosh. It could even be that. Um, I'm kind of intrigued what your thoughts are on this because I mean, clearly every culture has its own line where is too far. Um,
Um, whoa. I'm 50-50. Like I was quite like we're old enough, both of us, to come to be on both sides of the generational line a little bit. Where when I was a lot younger, obviously phones weren't as advanced as they are now. The old Nokia brick was
yeah,
the mainstay for many of our pockets.
I'd get my
So
camera out, put it on its stand, put the hood over my head,
yeah,
wait
like
about 30 seconds. I always get a blurry picture of the band.
and so like I've seen shows where like phones weren't ever like a prominent thing as well. And I'm really glad I got to experience that because for me, in my memory, those were some of the best shows because everybody's involved, everybody's focused on the artist. And I kind of feel for the artist a little bit because it has come to the day and age where people are just on their phones constantly, or people are taking pictures and stuff like that, which is super ironic for what like me and you do, where we're expected to go to shows because we run channels and we're expected to take footage and pictures and stuff like that while we're there. And this, I've always
Yeah,
tried to do it.
you know,
And I always, when I record in a show, like I do put my camera up, I do try and get some footage, but I try to keep it to like 30 seconds. Like I never record a whole song or anything like that. I'm like,
exactly, yeah.
I'm like, it's up. There's 30 seconds. That's a good shot. The phone goes back in my pocket, and I dance for the rest of the song. And I get
you're capturing the atmosphere primarily. I mean,
yeah.
I should.
I still got a job. I still got a job to do. Still, still got to get something for our videos. But
I actually filmed Gambit at one of their shows, ironically, but I asked for permission before I did that. I said to them, and then when I did it, I mean, you can see in the video, I stand to the stage side by the speaker out of everyone's way, hold up the camera kind of at eye level height, not above my head or anything, and I just filmed there.
When you mentioned the photography thing, then as you were running off like all the things they were saying, the photography one kind of surprised me a little bit. Because like a lot of people do go to gigs now to take photos and stuff like that, and I know that can be annoying for the artist, especially if they got like flash on or whatever.
I think to be honest, I think if you use flash in a venue, I think you should be kicked out. There's so many reasons. First of all, it's like really annoying for the artist. Even though they got flashing lights on the stage, it's like right in their face sometimes. Second of all is the fact it's really rude for other people in the audience. And third of all, how fucking stupid do you have to be to think that flash is going to actually fucking make an effect? It's like, this is a stage full of bright lights, and unless you're standing right in the front row, and even then, your flash is probably not going to have much of an effect on the subject. I love, actually, do you know what? My favorite one is when you see, if you ever see the opening ceremony for the Olympic Games, that's always the best one, because you'll see all the audience and flashes going off. It's like, really? You think all of you hundreds of people think your flash is going to light the fucking stadium up? It's like you're lighting up the head of the person in front of you. You're getting a nice view of the back of the head of the person in front of you. What the fuck are you doing? Yeah, so anyway, I get really annoyed about that. But getting back to subject, tangent, back from tangent.
Yeah,
I think if you're going to take a photograph, that's one thing. And in Japan, a lot of venues don't like it. You go to a lot of shows where there's multiple artists, and literally next to the name of each artist, it'll say photography allowed, photography not allowed, photo and video, and they'll have like cross or circle depending on if that artist allows video or photo. So individual artists have different rules as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can think two examples off the top of my head. Again, the Rum Kicks one from last night that I went to go and see. There was a guy. A few people were moshing, and one of the guys fell over the front amp of the stage and actually went onto the stage straight away. But straight away, the crowd all got together, picked him up, made sure he was all right. He turned around, and he actually turned around to the band and said, sorry. And they were like, it's okay, it's okay. And that's the example of things that happen as an accident, and then they're controlled, and the crowd mediates it itself, and everybody still has a good time.
But when the crowd are doing that, assuming that no one's just going out there like throwing arms.
It wasn't intentional.
That's the crowd having fun though. That's not like one selfish person like just blocking other people's view.
My second example is I remember when I went to go and see Baby Metal back in 2019, I want to say, and there was a girl in front of me, and the pit was moshing so fucking hard. There were guys there that were just taking the piss, and this girl was like, bless her fucking cotton socks, she was like 5'0", stuck between all these guys, and she was just getting thrown around like a rag doll. And it really upset me because she was about not even probably halfway through that gig, and she turned around and said, sorry, I've got to go, like this is too much, and had to leave. And that's not what you want. You want people to come and enjoy themselves and experience the band. So that was a case of over excessive.
If we are going to talk about moshing, because this is obviously not so much what I was originally thinking of, but I think it is a very fair topic. Moshing, I think, has always been a difficult subject, in my opinion, because when you look at moshing, it's like, it's not. How to say, it's not something which is really fair on most people there, but you kind of need the entire crowd to be on the same page. You need everyone on the crowd to be basically going, okay, we're going to look after each other. And all it takes is a couple of people, just a small group of 4 or 5. And the thing is as well, when you're in the mosh pit, it's kind of a free-for-all for people to say, oh, well, this is what we do here. And so you will get those kind of assholes. And I'm sure you get people who look at it and go, I want to be the toughest person, or as a small person here, I'm going to enjoy throwing them around. And we would like to think that doesn't happen, but it does. And this, I think, is one of the problems, one of the reasons why I'm always much more reserved about going to a show which is like a metal artist, because in a way, I kind of feel like there's something about moshing where your entire experience can be dependent on the behavior of other people, and I don't want to pay for that. If it was a metal show, I think I would more likely to get a seated view. And if it was like something lighter, I'd be more likely to get up front and sort of jump around, because I'd feel less likely that people are going to be that way.
Well, you know my view on that. Like straight away, I like metal, I like mosh pits as well. I like getting involved in that. It's become obviously it's a little bit harder for me to do now because I try to record more than I ever did when I just went to go and see bands, because of the channel. And I love mosh pits. I think they're there to be enjoyed, and when they're done well and they're done right, then they can be an absolutely just amazing experience. But that leads on to what your point is. It only takes 2 or 3 bad apples in a crowd, and what could potentially be an amazing experience can turn into a very sour and dismal one very, very fucking quickly. So it is potluck. The 2 extremes of mosh pits can be freaking life-changingly awesome, and like there's assholes.
Yeah, I think in a weird way.
I've had the experience of both.
Yeah,
I've had ones that are absolutely amazing and shit ones.
I've had a couple of good mosh pits, but I've never had a mosh pit really make a gig for me. Like a mosh pit's just kind of like a thing. It's like you can have a lot of fun there, but I don't know. Like if the gig's good, then mosh pit's kind of like it can be good, but it's like I don't know. For me, it doesn't make or break the show. Whereas like a bad mosh pit can really fuck up the whole show. So
I don't think a mosh pit really like makes the show, but it certainly improves
it's a really cool release.
Yeah,
it is something that definitely has a value.
It can enhance a performance, but just as much as you said, it can equally destroy it as well. On terms of like bad behavior as well, like anybody that throws anything at the band should get the fuck out instantly. Like I got no tolerance for that shit.
If you throw anything on stage, then you got to get the fuck out.
You got to get out.
I think as well though. I mean, to go back to the subtle side in regards to the cameras. I mean, taking aside everything we've said about sort of Japanese bands and younger bands and everything, I think there is another thing that often gets forgotten. Now I'll be the first person to say, because I want to sort of look at this from the artist's perspective. I'll be the first person to say, and I've said this before, that artists often whinge too much, and we give them a lot of credit, but a lot of the time they have a job that we would all fucking die for. So as a result, I kind of have a limited amount of tolerance for artists whinging, because they have got a dream job, and people are paying to see them do what they love. They should have a degree of comfort in just that. But I can't deny that if your job every single day, every day you can, is going playing gigs and you love doing it, and you look out at the crowd, and every time you look out at the crowd, you're not looking at people's faces, you're just looking at a row of cameras. I actually can completely understand how you would just end up getting sick of it, just like, what the fuck are we doing here? I can imagine it. I'd be looking down at the stage like, you're just like playing your instrument. It's like, I'm playing live to you. I'm playing live. This is a live experience. You came here to see this live. And yet it's not live, because the people at the front of the stage, you're not getting a live experience. Even in front of me, you're looking at me through a fucking lens. And it's like, and what are you doing? You're doing this so you can show it to someone else. It's like, so I'm playing live so you can show someone a recording. It's like, what the fuck are we doing here?
You basically just said my whole entire channel there.
No, but I'm with you. I'll record like 30 seconds and everything for like a show. And again, I am 100% on board with the fact that, like live shows being recorded in a certain way. I've said, like, when we had COVID, we had those like online shows. I think they should still do those, because there's so many people in countries who don't ever get these tours coming to their doorstep. If you live in, like, there's plenty of countries where you'll never get these bands come to you. So you should get those online shows. I think having professionally recorded gigs, that's great, but that's not what these people in the front are doing. Most of them are not doing that. They're just doing it so they can put it up on their social media and go, look, I went to the show. It's great if you're taking a little clip, but we've all seen it. We've all been in those shows where someone's just got their camera up for every fucking song. And you're like, are you kidding me? It's like, are you actually going to watch any of this?
I think, like I said, I think there's a difference as well between people just recording it again for views. I mean, this could be quite hypocritical from me. So, like, let me know, or the irony. I don't know. I'd like to hear your view on this one.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting one, but I feel like the difference between like me recording something for a show and then putting it online is because we enjoy the experience and we talk about it and we review it, and as a community, that's all we're rinsing.
Audience.
But we have
an audience.
What I think is wrong is for the people that record it just to stick it online for like Instagram or something, like just to rack up those like 160,000 views, but they don't really care about the band, or they don't really care about what they're just there to say, hey, look where I am.
I'm not even sure if they care about the views. I think they're probably just bragging to their friends who probably like have them on Instagram, who probably work with them in the same place, and maybe even those friends don't really give a damn. It's just like they like, oh, check this out what I've been, and they think it's really cool, and no one else gives it. I mean, it's probably not. No one is probably getting any pleasure out of those videos. Half of those videos are not giving anyone any pleasure. They're just there so someone can feel like they've cemented their experience, and I don't get it. Like I say, I'm sure some people have a reason. I'm sure some people have a community. Some people, if like they're going to see a show and there was a friend of theirs who really wanted to go and they didn't get to see it, maybe they'll record a song they really like. Maybe you'll get like a 30-second clip to show the experience to your friends. But I can't believe when you see the number of cameras that are up, and don't get me started on those fuckers who hold up a fucking iPad. Like, have you seen that?
I have never been to a gig where somebody holds up an iPad. I've seen that more times than I would care to imagine. Like, someone holds up a goddamn iPad, you're like, what the fuck? It's like, if they do flash photography with an iPad, I won't be throwing something on stage, but I'll be throwing something at their goddamn head. At the screen of the iPad.
Yeah, I just go. So, if something lands on stage because you were aiming for an iPad, that's the one time it's okay. Yeah, it's but I ultimately, as much as the artist is getting paid to do what they love, I completely understand that if you're a musician, you go on stage, you're doing a live experience, and you're just looking down at a bunch of fucking lenses. I can understand you going, what the hell is the point of this?
That can be the case for any career, though. I mean, look at footballers. They get paid hundreds of thousands of pounds, but if you run around a pitch and you're getting booed every night, you don't want to fucking be there. You might love football, but you know.
I would imagine that most people who go to pay to see a concert, assumably because they love the artist. So, surely you'd want to have that connection. So, yeah, I mean, again, I know it's not everyone, but it's enough that it's noticeable. And obviously it's starting to get to the point where it's like upsetting some people. And I think it has been for a while.
I think as well, like the difference as well between pictures nowadays as well and pictures, like 10, 15 years ago, what is the emergence of like Twitter as well, and TikTok. It's that surge of information and how quickly you can get it out. It's way different to what it was back then. Like, you could take a picture at a gig, put it on Facebook, and that was like the only thing back then, and your friends and family would see it, and then that would be it, because there'd be no reason to do any more than that, and you can enjoy the gig. You could be like, hey, look where I am, blah, 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 and that would be it. But as time's gone on, it's become more and more, here's a video on TikTok. Like, there's been concerts that I've gone to, like Baby Metal, for example, where I've gone in and I'm barely at the door, and practically half the fucking concert is online already. Like, that gig is like literally, you could watch that in its entirety in like the thread on Twitter. It's mad.
I think another aspect as well, when you were mentioning with technology, I mean, if you go back like even 10 years, if you try to photograph at a gig on a camera phone, you'd end up with a bunch of blurry overexposed pictures. Whereas like now, people have got like the smartphones with like really high quality lenses, like AI correction on it, and they take a picture and end up with like perfect gig quality pictures. And you're just like, and then you're kind of like, okay, that's just encouraging them more because they know they're actually going to get good shots out of this. Well, actually, I don't know. Does that mean they take less because they can get better quality without trying? I don't know.
I know. There you go. There's a debate for the comment sections.
This is interesting. This is like a broad topic. I mean, the topics that I really want to see in the comments on this. First of all, what's your opinions on cameras at there? Second of all, I'd love to know if you guys feel like what's the balance with mosh pits? I mean, I guess also the artists, like some artists, you have
what about hecklers as well? What are your thoughts on that, quick, before we start?
That's a really. I think that also depends on what if the artist is actually doing something where they're not like respecting the paying customer, then fucking heckle them. But otherwise, if you're all enjoying an artist who you like, then you should be on side with them. So I think as a general, heckling should never really be allowed unless the artist is genuinely taking the piss with their paying customers. And they don't. All we have to do is do their songs after all. So just
that's true.
And you'll be all right. Most of them do that. But the other thing I really want to see people's opinions as well is if you've like obviously seen shows in multiple different countries, where you think the line is in different countries. Like obviously in Japan, as a general, people don't make a lot of noise during shows, and between the songs they like cheer and everything, but during the songs they tend to not make so much noise. They tend to listen more. Photography and everything is really limited, depends on the artist, and even if it is an artist who allows it, you'd be assumed to not take the piss. And it's a much more as a general, a much more less intense experience, but still I think everyone still gets massive enjoyment out of it. You still see people really letting the energy out, but it's kind of just a bit different. But obviously it's much more much more free for all in the West, which allows you can do kind of maybe you can enjoy it more, but also it allows for some things to be more negative. So I'm really interested to know if people have opinions on that, the camera thing, the moshing thing, and the difference in cultures. There's a lot of stuff to comment on there, so I think that'd be a really interesting and fertile ground for conversation.
What about us YouTubers? Are we to blame? I don't know. Like I said, let us know.
Do you think there should be any room given for people who are, just like for people occasionally taking videos because like, well, I've got like an audience. I think most people would probably be okay with that as long as it's done fairly respectfully. But
I think that's the main word, isn't it? Respect. And I think if you stay on the right end of that, I think you'll be all right. But
I mean, there's no doubt. Like for example, you have like 20,000 subs who you've earned. Who are subscribers who have come to. Well, no, I mean, I think it's fair. They've come to you and pressed that button for a reason. Whereas a lot of the people who are doing this, as I say, there's no one is waiting eagerly with bated breath to see what their video is from the gig they went to last night. There's like no one waiting for that. So yeah, I think there's a difference between that. But again, I'd be really interested. Do you take videos at gigs? If you take videos at gigs, who is that for? I mean. Do you
ever take pictures at a gig and then ever go through them again? Like that's another thing as well.
I think I've done that where I've like sort of like if you're in a good location, you take a couple of pictures and then you put your phone away because it's like, oh, that's for posterity, and I can show people, oh, maybe I was in a really good location, I can show people where I was standing, and that's really cool. So I get that. Photographs I think makes sense though, because photographs just. But then again, it's just like take it out, take the photograph and put it away. Don't stand there like trying to line up your perfect shot for like 2 songs.
Again, respectfully as well. Like you said, for the gig that I was in the other night, I was trying to do like 30-second videos, put my phone back in my pocket, enjoy the song. And I was quite near the front, and I think the girls really responded to that. And they were on the last song of their set. And I literally was like, this is the last song. Fuck it. I'm going to get in there for something a little bit different. And I got in front and I got down on my knees, and the girls like proper came shredding for my camera shot, which is amazing, by the way. I can't wait for people to see that. But I think that works both ways. I think it's because they knew I wasn't just stood there like that the whole the whole freaking time.
The artist does notice.
Yeah, I think they do, because there was other people in that gig all at the front doing that, all that, and I was like trying to do it like that. Enjoy the song, dancing, moshing, and then like a couple of songs later, like another 30 seconds back in, trying to enjoy it as well. And it was like the last song, I was just like, last song, fuck it, let's go, let's try and do something. And the girls really, I feel like you said, I think they noticed. Like he's enjoying the show as well as doing that instead of just going.
I think if I was on stage and it was in my position, if I looked in one direction and the camera was constantly looking at me, I would kind of veer away from it because I would feel a little bit weird about that. Whereas if there's just one person who like sort of gets out their camera quickly, I've moved towards them. I do think like there is a general,
Yeah.
Artists are going to notice that. And if they're just looking at you and every time they look at you, they just see a lens, they're probably going to veer away from you.
Yeah. The one thing I try to do as well, I always try, I do this consciously as well, is I never try to focus on one band member more than the others. I try to do my best to give, even like the drummers and stuff in the background. And I kind of make it a little bit
just
obvious.
Climb up on stage and walk between.
But I make it blatantly obvious that, like, the guitarist is getting a little bit of love. Then I'll switch to the bassist. And then I'll wait until they clock it. And then I'll switch to like the drummer. And I'll make it like blatantly obvious that the drummer's getting a bit of love. You'll be surprised how many times like the drummers in the back get absolutely no love. And then I put up a camera to like focus on the drummer, and they're suddenly like, oh.
Yeah, I must admit, ironically, going back to Gambit again, the drummer from Gambit, like when I sort of leant across, because I couldn't quite see her from my location, I leant across a little bit to get her in the video. That's when she did like she stuck her tongue out, like
I think
and looked directly at me, like tongue out. I was like, okay.
Yeah, and I think they appreciate that. I think if you do it like more as like you're just admiring the whole band, I feel like they appreciate that a lot more than just like, oh, there's a lead singer.
Well, obviously, they're not going to necessarily notice everything you look at. They're just going to notice that every time they look at you, it's not just like fixed stare, which is what it was going to like be a little bit creepy. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ! I've never seen you. That's the closest I've ever seen you before. It was too attractive. I was like looking directly into the sun. I was blinded by the brilliance.
Jesus Christ!
Anyway, that's where we're going to leave
it. Are you sure it wasn't you drinking last night?
Cough it. We're going to leave it there for today. And I think this is a really interesting topic. There's a lot of to talk about this. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what people say.
I'm looking forward to seeing what the comments say for this one as well, for sure.
So
we might do another video and respond to some of these comments as well. So please, like, if you're down there and you were talking about it, we'd love to see some proper detailed responses and of you guys doing it. And we'll come back to it for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, anything like this, if there's a lot of topic on it, we're definitely willing to come back and talk about it more. So anyway, there you go, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in.
And don't forget to keep your ears to the ears.